Hey, how's it going, guys? This is CJ here, back for another movie review. This time I'm talking about the highly anticipated movie. Oh, who am I kidding? Not highly anticipated. I would say waiting on pins and needles. The movie Sonic the Hedgehog, directed by Jeff Fowler, starring James Marsden, Tika Sumpter, Ben Schwartz, Jim Carrey, Neil McDonald, and Natasha Rothwell. Let's just get down to the nitty gritty, okay? Sonic as a franchise, Sega, the character near and dear. That's Sega's mascot, and for me, Sonic has always, at least ever since the Dreamcast era when it went in 3D, has always had a very troubled, has always been a troubled franchise ever since it went 3D, and stuff. It's particularly with the fact that Sega has this insistence with every Sonic game in 3D to make it this like deep, thought-provoking, not gonna say thought-provoking, but just this deep, try to make a deep story out of it when you really didn't. You look back at the Sega Genesis days and it was just a basic story. Sonic is out to defeat Dr. Robotnik, him trying to get the Chaos Emeralds and stuff and save his friends in the process and stuff. Simple story, nothing difficult, And it's just once it got to 3D, they try to go all deep dive and adding in all this lore. We get Sonic and friends, whether it's Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Big the Cat, just all this stuff. And it was just like up the ante on all the story, and it just became convoluted messes and stuff. You get just all these different versions of Sonic and stuff. And Paramount announced the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. We get the first trailer, and then we see what they did with Sonic, which introduced the first problem. And it's really a problem with Hollywood when it comes to doing video game movies, in that Hollywood feels that they know better than the actual product and fans themselves. And that was the first mistake, in the fact that the Sonic that we got in the initial trailers, there was nothing iconic about the look of it, you're just coming off of Detective Pikachu, which they nailed every aspect of all the Pokemon in that movie and stuff, the look and their demeanor and how they act and stuff. And then you give us a Sonic trailer and you're thinking, what the hell is going on here? And I operate under the idea of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sometimes, more often than not, it's better to leave the visual look of a character the same. There's no reason to try to update it and spiffy it up. Keep the look. So it was interesting, after Paramount was getting dragged and all the jokes were coming out about the design of it, that a few months later, boom, we get a redesigned Sonic and we get a new trailer with better music. And it's like, well, damn, why didn't you put this out before? So it's interesting where Sega kind of put themselves at in terms of its story and such, just in terms of just really doing the promotion of this movie. So I'm happy to say that I was genuinely, after watching this film, I was genuinely shocked coming out of the movie, like, oh my God, this is actually really good. And I think what works for this film is its simplicity. I saw a lot of people really kind of feeling as though this movie's downfall ultimately is that it's too simple of a movie, but I push back on that because I feel simplicity works for movies sometimes. Sometimes you don't have to be deep and thought-provoking. Sometimes you don't have to have these multitude of layers of stories, because ultimately, with some video game franchises and stuff, particularly if you're going to translate into a movie, you don't have to do that. You just keep the story simple and straightforward. And that's what we got, because the whole basis of the movie is that Sonic is a character who comes from a dimension, and he has these tribal people coming after him because, super speed and his powers and stuff, when they kind of allude to his connection. If you're a Sonic fan, you kind of can pick up on what it's alluding to. But anyways, he comes from another dimension, fastest, hedgehog and stuff like that. He ends up having to escape the Earth to escape some forces that kind of look like Knuckles people a little bit, but whatever. And he escapes using his magic rings and stuff, and he hits on the Earth, and he manages to land in Green Hills, Montana, and he hides out there. And he basically ends up stalking people and just kind of observing everything, and he ends up coming across Tom Wachowski, who is played by James Marsden, and his wife, played by Tika Sumpter, Maddie Wachowski. And he stalks them and stuff, and he refers to Tom as the Donut Lord, and his wife as who she's a veterinarian, refers to her as the Pretzel Lady and stuff. And he feels close to him. He's running amok in town. He runs amidst of this old dude named Crazy Carl, who refers to him as the Blue Devil and stuff. And he's hiding out and just kind of getting a feel of that town. He grows close to that town just by virtue of stalking and such. And after a night where he kind of causes a massive power outage due to kind of like his emotions and stuff, basically the government hires Dr. Robotnik to hunt him down. So basically, by virtue of Dr. Robotnik coming to the fold, Tom has to help Sonic evade Dr. Robotnik while also trying to collect his rings that he lost in the process and stuff. So, yeah. Simple and straightforward, nothing too crazy. I think what makes this movie work past just the simple plot, it's the fact that one, everybody, even the humans, they don't outstay their welcome. They don't overshadow Sonic itself. In fact, all the characters play supporting roles that kind of play off Sonic and just him in general in this world and stuff. Tom and Sonic they befriend each other and they help each other, and they kind of had this, they go on this road trip to, they got to go to San Francisco to get Sonic's rings, and it's this kind of buddy road trip and stuff, and they're getting to know each other, and Tom is just trying to figure out it's a hedgehog that can go fast and stuff, and they get into little small shenanigans. They go to a bar at one point and they get into some shenanigans there and stuff, and they're having fun, they're getting to know each other and stuff. Even Tika Sumpter playing Maddie, she's Tom's wife, and they have a little subplot of them, him wanting to be the San Francisco cop and leave the small town and stuff, and she's supporting him, and she also ends up becoming a supporting person for Sonic and stuff, in a way. And it just works. They don't overstay their welcome, they don't overshadow it, and they just work. And I think that's kind of why all this stuff comes together and stuff. And even down to Natasha Rothwell playing Maddie's sister, she has some funny moments and stuff, because it just works. It doesn't take away from it and stuff. And then you have, on the other spectrum, you got Jim Carrey playing Dr. Robotnik, and there's one thing I can say is this. I felt Jim Carrey was really good in his role as Dr. Robotnik. He was very goofy and kooky. He plays Dr. Robotnik as this, I'm smarter than everybody and stuff, but he goes all in. He kind of goes just off script, and you can tell, and it works. I can say if there's a negative side to it, that I can see some people maybe not feeling his Robotnik because he kind of goes a bit off reservation. But I disagree, because I think he worked perfectly as Dr. Robotnik. I think he nailed the mannerisms of the character and stuff. And I like how, again, it plays up to what we know of Dr. Robotnik in the games and stuff. This smart guy who's very aloof and goofy and all that stuff, and he is very smart. Versus if you contrast to, if you remember the ABC Sonic cartoon where Dr. Robotnik was very serious and stuff. But most incarnations of Dr. Robotnik, whether it's the Sonic Adventure games or even the other Sonic cartoon that came out, Robotnik is played very goofy and aloof in a way and stuff, even with him being super smart. And I like how they did it with Jim Carrey. Just he is like really just going in on the role and stuff. But I think more than anything else, I enjoyed Ben Schwartz voicing Sonic. Just the character overall, when you look at this film, he works. He isn't trying to be Jaleel White. It feels like he's really kind of nailing the mannerisms of Sonic the Hedgehog that you remember from the Sonic Adventure games and stuff. And I think that works to the benefit of the character, and it works in terms of how he interacts with Tom and Maddie and Dr. Robotnik and everybody else. And I think it just works. Even one of the things that, we all crack jokes at the original look of the character before they revamped him to his classic look. And I think the revamp works because I feel if you kept the character in the old design that they initially had before everybody, cracked jokes about it, I feel it would have kind of took you out of it a little bit. It would have distracted you. because you're so focused on like, it just feels off. Versus when you look at his new redesign and him looking like we know the character from the video games, now you're engaged in the movie and stuff. You're engaged in seeing Sonic interact with this environment in the real world and stuff. Whether, at one point he does the thing that we saw in, Flash and Quicksilver and do where time slows down and he's doing a bunch of stuff. And you saw it in the trailer too. He does those things and it's actually pretty dope and it actually works and stuff. And just all those little touches of Sonic, whether he's doing the power spin and we see him doing that, and just the overall function of him running and stuff, it just works. And I think overall, this movie kind of reminds me of how they did Detective Pikachu, because clearly, when you get past all the BS, when you get past how the false starts with the design and stuff, when you really look at this movie and stuff, it's very much a kid's movie. It's a very much straightforward film. But at the end of the day, you're kind of just, you'll come away like, wow, I didn't think it was going to be that good. And maybe you can say that's low expectations because of what we got presented before all this revamp and the controversy and everything. But I feel you'll come away with it like, you know what, this is actually really good. And I think this shows that if at the end of the day, you get down to the basics of what makes video game movies work and stuff, you can craft an actual competent video game. And I think that's ultimately what we want out of these video game movies. Going back to Detective Pikachu, the story was very simple, nothing too crazy and convoluted that we haven't seen before in other movies and stuff. But they nailed the aesthetics of Pokemon in that movie, Pikachu and stuff. Yes, Ryan Reynolds is talking about it in the movie. You saw Pikachu doing his Pika Pika, and we saw all the other Pokemon and how they act, and we saw the interaction stuff, and it felt like a living, breathing Pokemon world. And in this movie, you felt like they really captured Sonic and what makes Sonic who he is, ultimately. And I think that's why going into this film, you're like, oh, bet, I like this. There is definitely a lot of Easter eggs if you're a fan of this, if you're a Sonic fan, especially when you get to the end of the movie. But overall, definitely a solid film. Kids will definitely love it, especially the kids. They'll definitely enjoy it. But if you're a Sonic fan, you'll definitely like it. Even if you're not a Sonic fan, you'll enjoy the movie. It might come across very forgettable, like, oh, it's not bad, and then you keep it moving. But if you're a huge Sonic fan and if you got kids, take them to see this movie. It's great. You will not regret it. So if I had to grade this movie, I give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, the downside to the movie is that I feel certain people might not. It might come across very forgettable just because it might not be your wheelhouse of a movie that you normally watch. And also, if you're one of those people that has these expectations of what you want out of a Sonic movie, it might not hit for you just because it's very simple. And then, again, the simplicity is not a bad thing, but some people might want more meat in it and stuff. But I feel for this movie like this, it had to keep it simple and stuff. And for a movie that clocks in at like an hour and 30 minutes and stuff, hey, it gets straight to the point. And I think that's also another thing that works to his advantage. So I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. Definitely go see this film. You won't regret it. Check it out. Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And I'll check you guys later. Peace out.